Hello, everyone. This is the Armchair Warlord with my co-host Katal Lars.
Hey, everybody.
Yeah. So today, this is I'm going to try to be doing these on a fairly regular basis going forward. I'm just waiting on developments, as I've mentioned earlier. So yeah, right now as we're speaking, this is H-hour plus 24, where this is the end of the first day of the war in Ukraine, which is kind of terrifying considering the amount of stuff that's happened over the last 24 hours. Catal, I'm not sure how much you've been following the news, if at all, but it's.
I didn't actually have that much chance to follow any news today, so I'm a little bit in the dark.
Gotcha. Well, you'll be my straight man as I bring you up to speed. So, God, when we were talking about this last night, it was just really just. There have been some missile attacks and the usual stuff firing off in the darkness, and I think I showed you some frames of that one Ukrainian checkpoint getting shot at.
Yeah.
That was about it.
There was a lot of random stuff exploding, but no real major attacks as yet the other night.
Yeah. Well, it's like I said, it's been a long day in Ukraine. This is what the map currently looks like.
Also, I gotta admire your tab game here.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. My 58 tabs, which I was unsuccessfully trying to organize recently. Now the people who run this website, they have been putting up basically what they think the occupied zones are, but you can see by sort of the line of incidents that the actual occupied zone so far is significantly larger. The Russians have launched an all-out invasion, and there's just to sort of run around the map. And we'll finish up and we'll go from the south and go around counterclockwise and end up in Kiev, because that's where really the main show today was happening. So the Russians pushed out of Crimea. This is there's a checkpoint here. There's a checkpoint. Let me see. Yeah, the checkpoint we were talking about last night, I think, was about here, or like here-ish. And while the Russians have pushed, in fact, they did exactly what we thought they'd do. They pushed all the way up north, hit these two bridges. So it looks like let me see. Yeah, they hit these two bridges, and they're starting to push across onto the northwest side of the Dniester. Although they seem to have swung further west than we initially thought. I thought they were going to come through here and go across this dam. Although what we don't know, just because there hasn't been a lot of reporting of them pushing across here doesn't mean they're not necessarily doing it. So all the reporting I've seen, all the big news I've seen is they got across this bridge here, and
oh, is that not the dam?
No, the dam's further up here.
Oh, okay.
This is the dam.
Gotcha.
Actually, I've got a video. Somebody was taking video of them getting across this bridge. Let me. If I can find it. Oh, here we go.
Come here.
Those are artillery shells going off. The Ukrainians were shelling them while they were crossing. But yeah, the Russians,
and actually, bit too little, too late, though.
Yeah, it's very much too little, too late. This is sort of your Bridget Remington moment. This is the Russians managed to bounce a very significant bridge over a very significant river here, and And this ties into what I was saying about the Ukrainians not being prepared for this, because this should have been rigged for demolitions, and it should have been blown as soon as the Russians started breaking out of Crimea, and it wasn't. Yeah, Cortegos is saying the quote controlled territories leaking or biased as hell. Not going to lie. Yeah, the entire open source community right now is very much in the tank for the Ukrainians. In fact, Twitter is very much in the tank for the Ukrainians right now, which makes it hard to sort of figure out what's actually going on. I think the actual situation is significantly worse for the Ukrainians than they're letting on, and what the Ukrainians are letting on is pretty bad. So, but anyway, yeah, that was this morning. So close that out and get back to this later. This apparently happened just now. I've got some theories about this. So yeah, the Russians are currently, at least in this area, and possibly there have been some rumors they're pushing up towards this way, but those are very much contested right now. They're probably that. What we know is there are Ukrainian troops in Kherson, and there is some level of fighting happening around here. The Russians are probably going to want to just expand this bridgehead and then probably wait for a minute, because if I was in their shoes, I would probably want to get a bridgehead here and then hang on to it and clean this up, and then push north from here later. Because they're also pushing to the east. And actually, yeah, Melitopol. So that this occupation map is bad because the mayor of Melitopol has apparently made a video today saying that the city is under Russian occupation and to stay off the streets. So apparently the Russians are continuing to push up through here. Moving along, this ties into what really what Cortegos is saying. Yeah, so what we haven't seen a lot of is movement on the eastern front here. There's been fighting, definitely. We haven't seen a lot of reports of a lot of movement, which is not if you were a amateur observer of military affairs, you didn't know what you were looking at, you would think, oh, the Russians aren't doing very well here. Well, not really, because what's probably happening here is what's going on here is the Ukrainians have set up a lot of defenses, like fixed defenses. They've actually dug in this area over the several years since 2014, right? Since these areas broke away. And what I think is happening here is the Russians have their local proxies doing what we call in the business a holding attack, to essentially because there's a lot of Ukrainian troops in this area here, to keep these troops pinned down and unable to move because they're busy defending, so they can't go up here and fight.
and put the Russians back where they belong.
Yeah. Yeah, essentially. So
they know what they're doing. They're making a distraction.
Yeah, I mean, they don't have to be successful down here, because there's a lot of Russians coming down from here, and there's Russians coming from this way, and there's Russians coming from the south. There's Russians coming from the north, and they're just going to come in behind these Ukrainian guys around this eastern area and roll them up. Let's see, and so that being said, it's not exactly a cakewalk here, because the reports we've been seeing around the city of Kyiv, so it's this city here near the border. Apparently, there was a decent number of Ukrainian troops who were based here. And again, the Ukrainians weren't prepared for this. A lot of their units are fighting kind of where they're based at. So apparently, the Ukrainian 93rd Brigade, which is a good unit, was based here, and they basically rolled out of their garrison and started went into action. So there's been a lot of fighting around the city of Kharkiv today. and I don't. Apparently, the last I've heard is the Russians are sort of in the ring road area, but they haven't. They're sort of probably just continuing to probe around the area and feel things out. So this is still very much developing. They're also probably trying to figure out where exactly the Ukrainians are so they can bypass them. Which, speaking of bypassing, that's sort of what appears to be happening further north, in the around basically Sumy and Konotop. No, but basically around Sumy. So we know the Russians came over the border last night and hit Sumy, and there's been fighting in this area late this afternoon into early tonight Ukrainian time. So this was several hours ago. Apparently, the Ukrainians basically got pushed out, launched a counterattack, and doesn't seem to have been very successful. But I would suspect sort of looking at where the Russians are going, the Ukrainians probably got pushed south after this counterattack, and the Russians seem to have pushed onto the city here, Konotop, which I guess reports are just coming in. There's Russian troops here, and while this is a long way from the border. Let me get my ruler out here. This is 60 miles from the border. And 60 miles from the border, that's about 100 miles to Kiev. And this is first day's objectives. So they're making progress.
And quite a lot of it too.
Yeah, this is and God, I'm going to show you some statements later by some Western leaders here. There are some people who are out to lunch as to what is happening, and really this is
most Western leaders who've commented on this are completely clueless.
Yeah, it's like people in the West are acting like, oh, the Ukrainians the Ukrainians haven't just immediately thrown on their weapons and surrendered, as saying, oh, they're putting up more resistance than we thought. But these are not the kind of gains you make against somebody who's prepared, right? Somebody who's ready for war. The Russians have made very significant gains over the last 24 hours, almost to the point where they're still they're very much maneuvering in open country right now, especially up north. Like Chernihiv, apparently the Russians have punched into that. I haven't even seen stories about them. I haven't even really seen stories about there are really a whole lot of news about what's going on up here. And we know that the Russians have taken Pripyat. They captured what's left of the Chernobyl nuclear power plant. That was this afternoon, and we've seen. And what's actually interesting too is, well, we know they're deploying further west as well, but we haven't seen any news at all about anything over here, anything west of Pripyat, which suggests to me there's probably a lot of stuff coming in. Really, the route we discussed on stream earlier, coming in through this road here west of Pripyat to isolate Kiev from the west. And there's been just no reporting on this, none.
Well, Western Ukraine really doesn't like Russia.
Yeah.
Russia wouldn't want Western Ukraine to be able to get to Eastern Ukraine.
Yeah. Which almost makes me think that a lot of what we're seeing on Twitter and in the news, sort of open sources, is what the Russians want us to see. They have pretty sophisticated electronic warfare systems. They have pretty sophisticated cyber warfare systems. They may be selectively shutting people down to keep them from reporting. So we're all focused on. And speaking of the left hand not knowing what the right hand is doing, So the other big thing that happened today was this morning. There were some crazy videos out about this. The Russians the Russians did a helicopter assault into the Aeroflot airfield in Gostomel, this is an international airport. It's not the main one. It's not this one. It's actually the exact one we pointed out yesterday. We thought the Russians would hit if they were going to try to take an airfield near Kiev. It's Gostomel, and the Russians came in on helicopters this morning and stormed the place. There was, and now it's kind of disputed what's currently going on there. Basically there was fighting there for a while. Apparently the Russians only inserted about a company worth of guys, so 150 dudes, and they didn't. As near as I can tell, they didn't send in any more guys after them. But there were certainly a lot of reporting coming out. The Russians were about to do a significant airborne insertion into this, like sending a ton more dudes, doing a large parachute drop into this airfield they just seized, and the Ukrainians seem to have thrown basically everything that they have at it. Actually, that's my thumbnail picture. Let me pull that up here. This was taken from the fighting in Gostomel today. Let me pull this picture up. It was that was a Ukrainian SU-24, which managed to. The Ukrainians got a few planes airborne today. They haven't done a hell of a lot, but this guy apparently came in over Gostomel Airport and dropped his whole payload. He's zoom in on this because this guy's dropping 4 bombs. Yeah, that's him. That's his wingman. That's all of his ordnance he was carrying on that plane, coming off of his racks. So right now the situation at Gostomel is the Ukrainians have claimed they retook. Yeah, it's disputed. The interesting thing is the Russians haven't said anything about it. The Ukrainians claimed they retook the airport a few hours ago. I'm
not sure how true that is, because if the Russians aren't saying anything.
Yeah, well, because what it tells me, what I'll tell you is the rule in war is pics are bullshit, right? It's the same as that with anything. Pictures are bullshit, and there have been no pictures coming out of Gostomel, none. Right, the Ukrainians were like, "Yep, we retook it," and then you'd think like if they won this big battle against Russian Spetsnaz, they would post some pictures of the victory, right? They would show some captured weapons, and they'd show some prisoners, and they haven't. They haven't shown anything. So that this is, I really wouldn't be surprised if the sun came up in Ukraine. We found out the Russians are very much still in possession there. And
we got an interesting comment from Regret AOS. He says, "Bruh, the map is different for me on that site."
Interesting. Not sure what the difference is, but.
Also, we have Brian Shearer, Leon Fuego, and Josh Graydon in the chat.
Oh, hey, everyone.
Guys?
Yeah. To say hello to our listeners. I think this is the most people we've had on stream. So, yeah, and as well as Quarter Go. So thanks, everyone, for coming on and listening. And hopefully I can get you guys a little bit more up to speed on the war.
Okay, so Regret AOS is saying Kiev is completely encircled and Russia pushed Ukraine away from Donbass.
I wouldn't say Kiev is completely encircled yet. Although this time it's starting to get that way. Among other things, let me refresh the map here and see if it changes at all. Yeah, this is still what I'm seeing, which lines. This is a very conservative read on the situation on the ground right now, but it's what we've got. Oh God. Josh Graydon says he's only here to make Traeger's jokes at Catal's expense.
Well, man, I did not do a stream today myself, and there's a reason for that.
Yeah.
Pregnancy being one of those. Okay, so Brian is asking if it live updates or do you have to refresh it?
It should. I mean, I just refreshed it, so I think this honestly this map is pretty close to what my sort of understanding is, which makes me wonder if Regret AOS might be looking at a different site. But anyways, so yeah, I really wouldn't be surprised if the sun comes up and we find the Ukrainians are very much still in, or find the Russians are still very much in possession of this airport here. Also, the other thing that's going on is so this raid the Russians conducted on this one airport near Kiev looked very scary for a while, pretty much all day today, because people thought, well, the Russians are going to start flying in, heavy cargo planes and landing all these troops right on Kiev's doorstep. And I would bet the Ukrainians sent a lot of their reserves to go deal with this situation. And you know what they're doing if they're fighting here, fighting the 150 Spetsnaz dudes? They're not dealing with this or this or this or this. So yeah, this might be a.
So Regret is checking to see if he's on a different website from you, and Farv dropped by, said he dropped us a link. Most he can manage. He's had his fill of this.
I understand, Farv. Yeah, Farv is a. Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, we need to do a proper Guild Wars stream at some point. But that's neither here nor there. I'm sort of keep on with the news here. Next, let's just sort of go back through our comments, and I can talk about those a little bit because we've had some from Quarter Ghost, who I know he's waiting on. So Quarter Ghost is saying they've got 3 weeks to wrap this up until the country turns to a mud field, which we actually addressed that in earlier streams. The Russian army isn't the Wehrmacht. They're not trying to invade Ukraine using VW bugs. They have trucks with really.
Furthermore, they're not the World War II Wehrmacht.
Yeah. The mud season, I don't think is going to be a significant issue in this war. This isn't. There have been 80 years of infrastructure development and 80 years of automotive engine development to get the to just really negate a lot of those sort of terrain problems.
Well, and Russian tanks historically have always had super wide tracks anyway, so they don't sink like, say, a Bradley would.
Yeah. Let's see. Portagos is saying he's hearing reports from people on the ground saying 40% have encountered Ukrainian army, which is not the militia. The regular army were surrendering, which I wouldn't be super surprised at. I haven't seen pictures of that, although one thing I actually do think is interesting is I've seen one picture today of I've seen a number of pictures of Russian prisoners, just onesie, twosie guys who got rolled up in whatever fight they were having with the Ukrainians. I haven't seen any pictures of Ukrainian prisoners, even though the Russians have gone a long way into Ukraine, and I've only seen one picture of Ukrainian prisoners, and I think it might have been taken with their consent, which actually is that's an interesting thing because it would almost indicate the Russians are, and there's some other sort of indicators from what the Russians are doing, they might be trying to fight a relatively clean war, because you're now I would need to go read through the Geneva Conventions on this to make sure about this, but you're generally not supposed to. It's sort of generally frowned upon to like put POWs on display, right? They're not zoo animals, and I'm sure the Russians have taken a lot of Ukrainian prisoners today, and I've seen one picture of like 5 guys.
Yeah.
So
Leon Fuegos wants to know, are Spetsnaz actually deployed?
I would not be surprised in the slightest. I'd say actually that's probably yes.
Quarter Ghost says he sent you a link that has a bunch of updates on surrendered POWs.
Gotcha. Let me pull that up after I go through some more of our comments here. Let's see. Let me take a look at what he sent me.
Oh, this is from the Ukrainian side.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, we wouldn't know about the Spetsnaz unless they, I mean, something public came out about them. I don't know. They usually keep that kind of stuff hush hush.
Yeah, well, they'd keep it hush hush because, again, the internet is almost pathologically determined to figure out where someone is when they take a picture and post it online.
Yeah, you're completely. Yeah, people have been doing that in Ukraine all day. Let's see. Yeah, I need to go through this more detailed than them.
So we have. Says, seems like all his history books are full of Ukraine being violently screwed.
Yeah, it's a kind of a cursed country, honestly. had a rough history. No, I'm hoping this war turns out relatively clean, which I've actually seen some hopeful indicators that it might be done relatively clean, despite what some screaming from certain Western leaders has indicated. So let's do our run through Twitter here. First of all, let's take a look at some Baghdad Bob level propaganda from the Ukrainians.
Right.
You know who Baghdad Bob is, right?
I should know who that is. I am familiar with the reference, anyways.
Take that as a no. So this was the Iraqi media and foreign affairs minister during the invasion of Iraq in 2003, who became famous for.
That explains why I didn't know the name. Who exactly he was.
Yeah, well, he became famous for appearing on television and making just ridiculous pronouncements about how well the war was going for Iraq.
Now that I remember.
Which culminated in
I remember everyone laughing at him.
Yeah, which culminated in his final appearance where he did a live stand-up saying that the U.S. Army had been driven out of Baghdad with like American tanks rolling into the square behind him. That was so this.
I remember that newscast actually.
Yeah, so this is there is some word going around Twitter. There's some Ukrainian MiG-29 pilot who has 6 air-to-air kills so far today. To give you some perspective on how ridiculous this claim is, the Ukrainian military as a whole has claimed, quite fancifully, by the way, that they've shot down a grand total of 7 Russian aircraft today. Apparently, they're saying that 6 of them were due to this dude. Yeah, I don't believe that. So,
well, from the ground, you couldn't tell if it was one guy or multiple guys trading off, and air-to-air kills are incredibly hard to confirm.
Yeah. We had a good question from Josh Gray, and so what does a clean war look like? Well, it's it's a couple of things. One involves adherence to the Geneva Conventions, so respect for prisoners of war, not blowing up civilian areas, not shooting civilians randomly, and trying to go after military targets, and proportional use of force against military targets. And what we've seen out of the Russians so far is I haven't seen anything indicating they're trying to create a bloodbath in Ukraine. They seem to be going after the Ukrainian military and Ukrainian military into. I'm not even sure they've spent that much time going after the Ukrainian government yet.
Well, I think they want the country. The way they're fighting right now, it seems more like they want to surrender rather than an all-out firefight.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't make any, especially if the Russians want to, I don't know, annex Ukraine like it used to be part of the Russian Empire. Like Vladimir Putin made a big speech about it yesterday, talking about how Ukraine used to be part of Russia. They probably don't want to raise the country to the ground, right? If they're planning on keeping it afterwards, and they probably don't want to piss everyone who lives there off by killing a bunch of Ukrainians.
Yeah, if they did that, I think Russia would probably get thrown out, not just by Ukraine, but Finland might be willing to get in the mix.
Yeah. Let's see. Do we? Yeah. So here we go. And yeah, I mean, the evidence of that is really quite. I mean, honestly, the evidence of that is the fact we're able to talk about developments inside of Ukraine right now. The power is still on in Ukraine. The electricity is still on. The internet is still working. At least
the internet's still working. Well, in most utility systems, water, almost everything's still working.
Yeah, like there has not been a lot of. I mean, beyond the amount of metal flying through the air, the sort of necessities of daily life don't seem to have been really disrupted that badly so far.
Favre makes a good point. He says we discussed them only doing this as an attempt to pull Ukraine back into Russia with as little mess as possible. A couple streams back, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a pretty good read on what the Russians are trying to do. They're this would be like us fighting a war against Texas, right? Like we probably don't want to.
Texas's power grid is a bit of a mess right now, but
yeah, the Texans would probably take their power down by themselves. But I mean, beyond that, we probably would not want to create to blow up Dallas. I mean, when talking about Russia and Ukraine, it would be like some sort of rump United States of America minus Texas going into Texas and wanting to blow Dallas up, right? Which where did I have that just chef's kiss tweet from Marco Rubio? Did I close that? Twitter is just moving stuff around on me for no reason. So yeah, in contrast to the power still being on and the utility still working in the Ukraine, this is our U.S. Senator and would-be President Marco Rubio just melting down on Twitter. This is the kind of rhetoric that's coming out of the West right now. Like,
I mean, in fairness, Marco Rubio melts down on the regular. So,
I love how this guy is just willing to get on Twitter and scream about Vladimir Putin being just a monster when this guy got faced down by a teenager. You remember that?
I may have missed that one. I'm just amazed that Marco Rubio is screaming about Putin while friggin' Justin Trudeau is in his backyard. It's like,
yeah,
priorities, guys.
This is the guy who got face down after that the school shooting in Florida, right? And like CNN did that big town hall, and Marco Rubio went there, and he got clowned by a teenager.
Right, I remember. I didn't watch it, but I remember seeing the aftermath of it.
Yeah, that whole disaster.
Favre says a lot of their power grid in Texas is being repaired and upgraded now. God. Leon Fuego wonders what's the worst take on all this on Twitter.
Oh my God, I've seen some apocalyptically. I'll tell you what the worst take on this is, and I'm not sure. I don't want to spend the time looking it up on stream. I'll just tell you what it is. There was a dude who sent out a tweet saying there's a lot of Ukrainians huddled together right now in air raid shelters. Only 35% of them are vaccinated against COVID.
Oh my God.
It's like, oh my
God. Okay.
Also,
all right.
Also, we had somebody sent out a tweet that was like, Vladimir Putin is a beneficiary of white privilege.
Oh my God.
It's like if a brown or black leader of Russia invaded the Ukraine, he wouldn't have been treated this way.
What are they even? The mental gymnastics these people go through to come up with their takes are incredible.
These people have brain worms.
I think they have full-on zombie brain at this point. I'm not sure the worms had much to do with it.
Yeah, God. Yeah, this is... so apparently this happened just recently. Somebody who this just happened over Kiev. Apparently somebody who, first of all, knows to flip their phone sideways when they're filming, thank God.
Right. Most people film in portrait, and it's like, why though?
Yeah. And this is what I don't get about this, because they're saying Ukrainian missile defenses intercepted something over Kiev just now, but this doesn't really, admittedly, I'm not an expert on this, but this doesn't look like that much flaming debris. To me, doesn't look like they hit an incoming missile, right? Because I mean, an incoming missile would have burned out its rocket already, right? So there's really nothing to catch on fire like that, except for except for the warhead. That's just going to blow up.
Hi, you're helping.
So, but what did happen was there was a lot of intel coming in saying that. We have regret AOS saying, that there was some kind of a Russian aircraft that crashed in Russia today.
Oh my!
Might have been mechanical, honestly. A lot of their fleet's pretty old.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
It's the one thing that the Russians seem to be slightly behind on is a lot of their aircraft haven't been updated.
Yeah.
But that's like the only thing.
Yeah. The
quarter ghost threat assessment COVID 3,054 club.
Yes, God. Oh my God. I need if we have time at the end of the stream, I'll go find some of those videos I was showing you earlier. Just Russian cruise missiles flying over people's heads.
Brian Scheer talking about the actress saying she wishes she was Putin's mom, and then apparently John Kerry said that the problem is this will distract us from climate change.
Oh my yes! Oh God! John Kerry, another would-be president, by the way, right?
Oh,
what is it? What is it with failed presidential candidates getting on Twitter and just giving? Like, this is why you weren't elected.
Right. Later, Leon Fuego. Thanks for being here, man.
Absolutely.
He says, it's been informative and fun, guys, heading off to train.
Yeah, great having you. So yeah, about the ghost of Kiev here. So the Ukrainian military, in their official statement, which is fanciful to say the least, they're saying they blew up like 30 Russian tanks, and I've seen a grand total of one picture of one blown up Russian T-80.
Yeah.
And so they're saying this guy shot down more Russian aircraft than the entire Ukraine military shot down yesterday. Oh, that's interesting. We have Willie Aguilera. Hey, welcome to the stream. Matthew Chan report on CNN was a Ukrainian aircraft that was shot down by a surface-to-air missile in the capital. That seems that seems reasonable.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that report, but I can probably go refresh my feed, see if there's anything new hitting. CNN reporting the explosion over Kiev tonight was a Ukrainian Su-27 shot down by a Russian anti-aircraft battery in the city's suburbs. Okay, yeah,
that would not surprise me.
That's that's scary, and that is absolutely possible because well, again, what was I saying earlier? Everyone has been talking, hey, look at what the left hand is doing about this little fight in this airport all day. There are all these Russian troops in Belarus. What the hell have they been doing beyond? We saw some video of them going through Chernobyl hours and hours ago. And they've probably pushed forward significantly, probably taken out a lot of Ukrainian troops on the way. And well, let's see how long let's say they're in Ivankiv. That is 67 kilometers over to Kiev, right?
Well, in Russia, anti-air artillery is extremely good too.
Yeah, and let's say they could have brought an S-300 forward. That would be adventurous, but God, an S-300 can shoot that too.
Josh Graydon says, "So is the real war? Who can convince the world they're winning on Twitter?"
Josh, you're fairly accurate. Yeah, the Ukrainians have been putting up a fine show of this today, and I think reality is starting to intervene, unfortunately for them.
Yeah. Well, Cortegos says there were 2 confirmed Russian helis down, 1 plane and 2 Tigers. Rest seems to be just propaganda.
Yeah, so there was video earlier today of there have been 2 Russian Ka-52s that were shot down. One of them went into the water, and one of them did a hard landing on land.
Yeah.
That was during this whole airport operation. I should have some video of that. I'll show it at the end of the stream if we have time. But yeah, Russian S-300s, even if they're based at Pripyat, that's 150 kilometers, 200 kilometers, and that can fire out and cover Kiev. And Brian Sure is saying Putin is releasing the dankest of memes as we speak.
Well, Putin's not dumb. If he wanted to distract people, releasing dank memes would work.
Yeah, he's using memes as a weapon of war.
Hey, Waffles.
Hey, Waffles. So he's saying there's a report they captured a Chernobyl reactor. So yeah, the Russians actually captured the reactors at Chernobyl. Now, oh my God, you want to know about one of the worst takes on Twitter?
No.
I need to I think that next stream I'm going to just save terrible takes. There was a dude who was in U.S. Intel forever, very senior person, kind of celebrity guy associated with CNN, and somebody asked, put out a question why have the Russians captured Chernobyl? Well, the reason is because it's on the damn road to Kiev, but he said it powers northern Ukraine. The last reactor there shut down 20 years ago. Right? Because the thing is, actually, after the accident there, they kept the other 3 reactors running, but they shut them down in 2000.
Yeah.
This is just
Waffles wants to know: do the Russians have the elephant foot again, or is it a different reactor?
I think they own the elephant foot. They own that real estate now.
Regret AOS says, by the way, who owned the unidentified RAF-looking plane over Kiev?
It's a good question. I don't know. I haven't seen that particular thing. We have a ton of comments.
With all the countries using each other's aircraft, it's difficult to say at this point who owns what. The U.S. has sold a bunch of F-16s. Britain has done a lot of sales of their fighter jets. So at this point, it could belong to almost anyone within Eastern Europe.
Yeah. Snacks and Comics says Russia has great fixed and rotor wing aircraft. It looks like they're sending in the old shit with freshman pilots. I wouldn't really agree with you there. I think they've actually deployed a lot of like pretty new, especially like helicopters. I mean, Ka-52 that had nothing to do with the Soviet Union. That's a new aircraft. They were doing some pretty advanced flying this morning going into that airfield.
They were actually doing pretty well. It looked like.
Yeah, let me see. I think I posted some footage.
Nobody cares, man. That would be an extremely bad idea.
Here we go. This was some footage of the Russian air assault this morning.
That doesn't really look like flying from a freshman pilot.
Yeah, those guys are experienced pilots. They know what they're doing. Though the crazy thing is, because there was all this activity, right at ground level this morning. I mean, the Ukrainians put some planes up to try to fight this, and there was a legit air battle happening at like 200 feet altitude.
Really, I wonder if anyone got any shots of like the actual dogfights.
These are Ukrainian jets here. So this is the Ukrainians put a couple of MiG-29s up. These guys are very low altitude. Probably trying to go after helicopters.
Probably. I also saw some flak flying up to meet them too, so they didn't have it all their way at all.
No, not in the slightest.
Anyone going up against Russian anti-air is going to have a hard time.
Yeah, especially because those guys who landed, guarantee you they had shoulder launched missiles, and I saw some. See, there was like Su-35 stuff flying around. It was nuts. Oh yeah, here we go. Apparently these are Russian.
So Josh Graydon wants to know, he says, so gross question. Is the best case scenario Russian wins clean, no one else jumps into the conflict, don't like it, just asking? Night Branch here. He's going to bed.
Gotcha. All right, take it easy, Brian. Yeah, I mean, as far as I mean, I'm not sure this would be the best case scenario for like American foreign policy, but as far as minimum damage to Ukraine, I mean, honestly, what I'm very surprised about is as badly as he's been hung out to dry by the West, that Zelensky hasn't gotten Vladimir Putin on the phone and offered to come to a settlement. It's my understanding that it's still very much on the table. It's been reported that the Russians are actually kind of offering pretty reasonable terms at this point. So I'm almost wondering if he's getting strung along by some people in NATO saying, "Hey, no, we'll send you aid, bro. Don't worry about it. We're working on it."
Well, everyone at this point should know absolutely that NATO or any other Western European alliance is going to hem and haw until everything is just on fire.
Yeah, I think Zelensky's getting told things different in private that are different from what all the politicians in NATO and the West are saying in public. Because everyone in public is saying we're not going in, we're not going to help. So I mean, Josh, Grant, I'd say the best case scenario here is that the Ukrainians and the Russians come to a negotiated settlement and have a ceasefire, and probably there's some kind of.
Favre says one of those was an Mi-8, the hip, and another one was a cargo/troop bird.
Yeah, he also says
I'm assuming he's talking about the helicopters.
Yeah, those are the helicopters I saw earlier. the Ka-50 Werewolf and the later produced sister helicopter, which is the Ka-52 Alligator. Those are both post-Soviet developments.
Yes, they are.
I think that the Russians actually don't. I think they mostly use the Ka-52. It's a two-seater version. The Ka-50 is kind of a weird attack helicopter because it's only single-man crew.
That is a little odd. Although it is also effective, so can't fault them for using something that works.
Yeah. This video came out this morning.
Okay, the Mi-8 is the cargo bird that flew by in the video.
Yeah.
Snacks and Comics says they're flying crazy low. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. Oh, that's
wow.
war for
Things
you.
are exploding there.
Yeah. So this was down near Crimea, and speaking of the Ukrainians putting on a good face about that, this is an entire Ukraine tank company
that just got destroyed.
Yeah, well, it looks like destroyed.
It's either destroyed or just fought to a standstill and gave up.
Yeah, it looks like these guys abandoned their tanks.
Yeah, one of them was dead. One of them was on fire, but the rest of them just looked like they got abandoned.
Yeah, it looks like somebody came up behind them, and then this one guy slewed across the road and traversed his turret back, and then everyone else seems to have realized we're not going to win this fight. It looks like they jumped out of their tanks and ran away.
Yeah. Well, I mean, a tank is kind of a death trap if it gets hit by the right artillery.
Yeah, apparently these are Ukrainian T-64s. So, yeah. So if the Ukrainians are claiming they're doing I mean that's an entire Ukrainian tank company that, here as I can tell, just got abandoned. Actually, this was the power. This was that dam we were talking about earlier. This is from this morning. That's the Russians going across it. That's their helicopters. And this is the other crazy thing about this war, and honestly something that's honestly something that like is kind of a little bit of a new thing about modern war. Post World War II conflict is it used to be that armies were these huge things, and they'd move through the landscape, and they would just massively outnumber the civilians in any given area, right? They would just sort of dominate the area they were moving through. Well, I mean, what we see here is there's civilian cars. I'm not sure if these are associated with the Russian military, but they look like civilians who just happen to have gotten stuck into this Russian military movement, right? Like that's
probably on their way to work. My goodness.
Yeah, like these are guys who are trying to go to work.
That'd be quite a thing to get caught up in when you're just trying to like do life, and then all of a sudden you're stuck behind a freaking military vehicle. It's like, what's going on? What gives?
Yeah, it's like that the Russians are invading, and I'm on my way to the office. Yeah, I mean the fact of the matter is modern armies are small. They're not big. I mean, the Russians have 200,000 guys around the Ukraine right now. That's a country of 44 million people, and their modern wars are not purely military experiences, right? They're fought in the middle of this vast civilian development that is modern society, and you see that, and then the army just shows up and starts wrecking stuff, and it's bizarre. It's surreal in a way that, I mean, it's very surreal, and these days it's very much. I mean, war is just unfortunately very much has to be fought in the middle of a vast mass of civilians. Also, talk about a ghetto rig there. That guy's got an anti-aircraft gun in the back of that truck. Yeah, the Russians have some new stuff. They have some very ghetto stuff too. Yeah, Cortigo says that might be the 36th battalion that surrendered. I wouldn't be surprised if there was some like entire Ukrainian formations that had surrendered by this point. Let me see. And speaking of things that should have been done, this is the first bridge demolition I've seen news of. This is apparently near Kharkiv, where the Russians or the Ukrainians have been putting up a pretty stiff fight. Yeah, this is the first bridge I've seen get dropped. And had the Ukrainians been prepared for this conflict, they would have rigged every bridge in the country to do this. Gotcha, Josh. Oh, thanks for coming on. I mean, so far we've seen you.
Josh.
Take it easy. I mean, so far we've seen one bridge get demolished.
He says you do whatever it is pregnant chicks do. At this point, mostly sleep and wish my brain would actually function properly. Favre says, "Oh, for fuck's sake, look at all the BTR 80s."
Yeah.
Oh wow, Josh Graydon, one of his last comments was, "So the most important news is that allegedly Sean Penn is on the ground in Ukraine."
Oh my, I've seen that. Like
Favre says, "Bullshit, he is." Oh dear.
It's bad enough that Miles of Kabul is going because Miles of Kabul is insane.
Right.
Yeah, our man Miles is going to Ukraine here.
Oh my god.
This guy is nuts.
Some people are just basket cases.
Yeah, like
I shall return. I have to do something really quick.
Okay. Yeah, on the further adventures of Miles of Kabul. So apparently this wackadoo is trying to. I'm really surprised this guy hasn't been arrested by some kind of security service yet, but he might be pushing his luck too far going into Ukraine right now. So that's. I've already dedicated more time on stream than he deserves. Yeah, just to give you an idea of this sort of tone that the West is taking right now, is saying, well, the UK MOD is saying it's unlikely that Russia has achieved its planned day one military objectives, which that's. I mean, they have SAM batteries covering Kiev, and they have a foothold on the right bank of the Dniester, and they're, 100 kilometers from Kiev on to the east. There, if I mean, God, what were they trying to hit? Like, were they expecting to win the war in 24 hours? So we'll see. This doesn't strike me as a serious statement from the UK. Similarly, the Deputy Minister of Defense in Ukraine is telling civilians to throw Molotov cocktails at the Russians from the balconies. This is a good way to get killed. Yeah, this is not good advice. Even if you want to, join the resistance, this isn't good advice. Molotov cocktails don't work very well against modern armored vehicles. So, this is some genius shit right here. Yeah, and also I was going to. Also, let me go back to the map here. So, if I was saying JFC, the UK acting as if they have any clue what Russia's day one goals even were. Yeah, I've heard from some Russian analysis. I've seen that the Russians are actually ahead of schedule, which I'd say the Russians are probably ahead of schedule because the extent of the advance I've seen so far probably I would say this isn't something you do in 24 hours against a properly prepared military. This is something if the Ukrainians were really set up to defend, and they were, I mean, honestly, I'll tell you right now, if the Ukrainians were properly set up to defend, they were dug in, they were ready to go. If Zelensky had ordered mass mobilization months ago instead of today, instead of hours ago.
Like he waited until the first day of the invasion, really.
Yeah, now they're apparently handing out assault rifles to just anyone in Kiev who wants one, which that's a recipe to that's a
That's
recipe
a
for a
recipe
successful
for
defense.
disaster.
Yeah.
Quarter Ghost says, unless you know how to atomize gasoline, you ain't gonna do shit with Molotov cocktails.
Yeah, that like you maybe the only thing you're going to do is you're going to throw something at the Russians, and it's going to plop on their armored vehicle, and then they're going to look up and be like, "Hi, what's up?" and then they're going to shoot you.
Pretty much. Or you might accidentally manage to set a random infantryman on fire, at which point you will be greeted with retaliatory fire.
Yeah, you're like, if you're going to go be an insurgent, be smarter than that, for God's sake. Like there's much more effective uses of your time than trying to throw Molotov cocktails at the Russians.
Stocks and Comics says there's a bunch of garbage news from big media. He had no idea the Russians pushed this far already.
Yeah, they're on the move, very big way. I mean,
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if we wake up tomorrow in America and Kiev is partially isolated.
I would not be surprised to see that, honestly.
But and I lost my train of thought about as far as what actually. So I was about to say this. So given how the Ukrainians are, given their situation, right? They given their situation, their economy, their military, the amount of foreign aid they can expect. Here's the thing: if the Ukrainians were properly prepared and they were dedicated to this, and they were serious about we will defend our country against the Russians, they could do it, right? The Russians have this is a 3-1 situation. The Russians have in fact, I'd say the Russians have less than a 3-1 advantage right now. It's more like a 2-1 advantage. And you want to attack somebody successfully, and really walk over them, you really want to get like a 3-1. And given the size of the Ukrainian army, given the size of their economy, their population, it's entirely reasonable. They could, if they were very serious about it, and they were like, we will defend our country against Russia. And if they started preparing for this war properly several years ago, they could legit beat the Russians in this. There's no reason they couldn't. And
the problem is, I think they were told not to.
Well, I think they were to an extent told not to. I think they were to an extent prevented from doing so, both by internal corruption and by an external unwillingness to provide arms. Although the Ukrainians, go ahead.
Biden was not helping that. Even when he was not in any kind of political power, he was very definitely meddling in foreign affairs.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's been a lot of, I mean, I see the involvement of Western, I'm going to call them the World Economic Forum blob, even though that isn't really very accurate, but sort of the international Western elite blob. How somehow everybody who's anybody in American politics has a child working for a Ukrainian gas company making crazy amounts of money for doing nothing. Things like that. It's there's a lot of really deep. There's a lot of tentacles reaching into and out of the Ukraine. We're reaching into and out of Ukraine, and nothing about it smells good to me. So. With that being said, I mean, I think we've sort of hit the summarized the news of the day, and we are at 1 hour. One last note: there was a push to accept Ukrainian refugees. I mean, honestly, I think that's pretty reasonable. I don't think there's I don't think there's a potential terrorism problem with Ukrainian refugees. In fact, I said this yesterday. One of my best friends when I was in middle school was a Ukrainian immigrant.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any security issues as far as us accepting Ukrainians who want to move here.
Yeah, you're far more likely to get criminals and terrorists from south of the border, to be honest.
Yeah, we'd probably do well if it'd probably be a good idea to accept as many Ukrainian refugees as who want to move here.
Well, there's rumorings and whispers of Ukrainian women in particular looking for green cards to get into the States. So.
Oh my God! Did I? You know what? Well, let's finish this up with some cringe here. Did I ever post that? Please tell me I posted that.
Someone posted something in one of the boards about apparently Russian soldiers freaking trolling Ukrainian Tinder looking for girls to bang.
Yeah, there was a story in the Sun this morning, and I'm having a hard time finding it.
Maybe they were so embarrassed by it they buried it. Waffles says cocktails are a last defense against troops. Like, you're effed, so either drink it or cram a rag in and maim those who will kill you.
God.
Favre says they'd be better off deploying sharpshooters from afar and keeping them moving. Molotovs, really?
Yeah, it's just complete shit takes here. Yeah, so apparently
did post that.
God. Yeah, so apparently Russian soldiers being horny 18-year-olds like all other horny 18-year-olds on Earth, they're on Tinder and they are actively trying to pick up Ukrainian women.
I'm not sure how many Ukrainian women are going to be into that, guys.
I mean, after we invaded Germany, there were a lot of German women who came back to the States. You know what they say, one love a man in uniform.
Okay, you're not wrong there.
Even if you did violently invade your country a couple of weeks ago, apparently. You're going to have to speak for your own facts there.
I think it takes a little bit longer than a couple weeks to smooth over that tiff. Quarter Ghost says Kiev should accept unconditional surrender at the moment to preserve lives and keep whatever support they still hold. Waffles says, tell us where the EU touched you, Kiev. Takes squid and smashes it violently all over the doll.
Yeah, I think the EU touched the Ukraine like Hunter Biden touched any one of his any just number of his friends.
Right.
And on that note, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, at this point, the Ukraine could say that about anyone they would ask about.
Yeah. So, on that note, I'll take us back to the meme we started the stream on, which is a good meme. So yeah, that's our stream for the night. We're a little bit over the hour. Provided on further developments, I'll probably keep on doing this over the. I mean, as long as there's significant news to talk about, I'll try to keep on doing these. I will admit I was staring at Twitter news feeds most of the day, and my eyes hurt a little bit. So I might try to dial that back significantly tomorrow and try to keep more of an even keel on things. But,
stop watching the news.
Yeah, well, it's. Something big happens, then you just watch the news obsessively for like a day, and then you gradually kind of go back to normal. But we'll see how this continues to develop. So, anyways, thanks you everybody for commenting. God, we great ton of people in here, and thanks Cold Fusion Waffles, Quarter Ghost, Favre, Snacks and Comics, Regret AOS, Brian Shearer, Josh Graydon. Nobody cares. Leon Fuego. God, we had like 8 people show up. Thanks everyone for coming, and I will try to keep this going tomorrow and over the weekend, so long as there continue to be significant developments to talk about. So, also, Katala has her own channel. She does game streams. Link is in the description, and I have a book out right now. I'm not going to show it on stream. This is I talked about this last night, but this is a war. This is a war that's going on, right? And everyone can talk about clean war, and everyone can talk about the Geneva Conventions, but hundreds of people have died violently in Ukraine over the last 24 hours. And this is going to continue to happen until there's a resolution to this conflict. So I'm not gonna go shill my stuff commercially at length here on the stream. But if you're interested in seeing more work from me, it's links are in
the links will always be in the descriptions for all the stuff. So,
gotcha. Oh, thank you for that, Cold Fusion. And so with that being said, good night, everyone.
later,
I'm
guys.
sure